And we are live. That's right, the very first ever teaser edition, GeeksGamers.com, Geeks and Gamers Facebook group. We are here. My name is Jay Rambo. I'm here with my two co-hosts, Corey D and Rick. Glad to be here. Corey, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Rick, how about yourself, brother?
Doing great, man. Good to be here.
Fantastic, man. I'm very excited. We got a big year to come, guys. We're going to be doing this once a week, an hour long every week. I'm super excited. This is going to be you guys' show, the Geeks Gamers Nation, GeeksGamers.com. I'm so excited to be a part of this. Jeremy Griggs has built a very superior group, in my opinion. I'm so thankful to be a part of it. I know that you guys are thankful to be a part of it, but we'll get to that in just a moment. I just want to make sure that everybody knows this is going to be your show for you guys by members of the same group. We're all here for the same reason. I'm excited. I get to take these time and opportunity to share some time with these guys and bring you guys a quality product about things going on in the Geeks and Gamers world. It could be video games, Game Informer magazine, could be cool trends in clothing, could be cool geeky accessories, could be cool things that you collect, like Loot Crate products for one, which, by the way, to the winner of the Loot Crate, dadgummit, man, my brain just went dead on me. To the winner of the Loot Crate contest, man. Good job on that. I look forward to seeing more of those. I was really excited to see somebody win that, and hopefully that'll go to a nice little shelf that we'll get to see pictures of sooner than later on how it all looks. I've seen Rick's collection. It's pretty cool. But let's get a little background on everybody really quick, as this is a teaser episode and doesn't need to be too long. I'm Jay Rambo. I've had a small background in radio and advertising and also in sales. I'm prior service Army, and I'm currently retired, 32 years old and a father of two, and a big-time gamer. Nice to meet you guys. Rick, give us a little background on you.
Hey guys, I'm Rick. I'm 27 years old. I've been a gamer my whole life. Been playing since I was 3. I've been in love with it ever since. Big aficionado on TV shows, movies. I mean, pretty much love anything with media, especially video games.
Right on, right on. Well, how about you, Corey?
Hey, I'm Corey. I'm 25. I'm a full-fledged geek. I'm a lover of cats, pizza, and video games. Been playing video games ever since I could walk. So, I mean, if I haven't played it, that's a shocker.
Right on, right on. All right, we're going to start this set off with a question for each of you guys. We're going to go to Corey first. First game you ever beat. What game and what system?
Man, if I could remember correctly, it probably was on the Super Nintendo. That's probably when I can actually function enough to be able to beat a video game when I was a child. So I'm going to probably say either Super Mario World or Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Same question, Rick.
I believe it was the original NES Super Mario Brothers. But I will say, I don't know if you can count that because I did use a warp. So
First win's a first win, man.
Yeah.
My first actual completed video game, start to finish, was the original Legend of Zelda on the regular NES, man. One of the hardest games as a child to understand until I just got curious one day and went exploring, and next thing I know, I'd beat the game like 4 days later.
Zelda has a tendency to do that to you. It just sort of sucks you in.
Yeah, it does. All right, I want to take this opportunity to give you guys a little snippet of things that we're going to bring you. And the little snippet that I chose for tonight's preview cast would be system versus system breakdown. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rock back a few years. Let's hear the SNES versus Genesis. Who had the superior product, Rick?
Oh wow. Okay, I'm biased on this because honestly, I never owned a Genesis. I got to play a Genesis once at a friend's house, but I never actually owned one. I did have an SNES though, and I loved the hell out of that system.
Right on, so right on. What about you, Corey?
I'm gonna go with the Super Nintendo. I mean, the Super Nintendo rocked over the Genesis in every category except speed. And when Genesis would advertise back in the day, they would only advertise of how much better their speed was. Now, they used fancy words when they were advertising, and they'll always put down Nintendo at the same thing because their ad was Genesis does what Nintendo don't. So I'm going to go with the underdog in that category and say SNES. From advertising, it was an underdog. But SNES, if you look at the stats, always overcame the Genesis, except for the speed.
I'm going to hold Genesis, man, near and dear to my heart. I'll give you guys both that the SNES had a great game lineup. It had a lot of fun. It had extra buttons that the Genesis didn't come out with till later. But all in all, I was a Genesis owner, and the fact that the Genesis had add-ons I thought was the coolest thing ever. I had the Sega Master System, I had the 32X, I had the Sega CD. I thought every bit of that was so cool how it all sat together, and all the SNES ever did was play SNES games. So my personal pick, I would say, due to modern accessorizing, which has become such a fad in our group, is the Genesis. That's what I say. So we've got 2 for SNES, 1 for Genesis. I think Super Nintendo takes that by the votes, but I still say Genesis. You guys can comment after the video on which one you guys thought was your favorite. Next lineup is Game Boy Color versus Game Gear. Who wins that round? Corey.
Also in the category of being a Nintendo fan and loving Nintendo, and while I've played a Game Gear when I was growing up, it was amazing. The difference in the Game Boy Color and the Game Gear was more lighted, a lighted screen. You could probably play it in the dark compared to a Game Boy Color where you had to have a light. But the library for a Game Boy Color was outstanding compared to the game library for a Game Gear. Game Gear took, I can't remember, 6 batteries compared to the Game Boy Color that took 2. The Game Boy Color could fit in your pocket when a Game Gear couldn't. You had to have a special case for it. So, I mean, I could ramble like this all day on it. So I'm still going to go with Game Boy Color.
Good argument. What about you, Rick?
I'm sitting here. I've been trying to figure this out in my head. I had both systems. I loved both systems, mainly for what Corey just said. The Game Gear, because of having a lighted screen, that was cool. I mean, I had some awesome games that I could play in the back of the vehicle at night or at home. I mean, in the dark. It was cool to me. But you did have Pokemon and all the other awesome stuff on Game Boy, and the game lineup is really hard to argue with on that one. So I'm going to go, I'm not a fanboy, but I'm going to go with Nintendo.
Well, yet again, Nintendo is winning this round. Here's the thing. I had one Game Boy when they first came out. I actually ended up trading it in to get my first Genesis at Kmart. I remember that Christmas. I had Kid Icarus, and that game, I could never get into it. The little basically black and white. And some years later, I ended up being given a Game Gear with one game, and that was Beavis and Butthead. And I remember playing that game for hours. Granted, I had to sit 4 foot from the wall because the only way I could play it was by plugging it in. However, going back to the accessorizing, Genesis did something that Game Boy and Nintendo did not, and they brought us the Nomad. Who remembers that?
Nope.
Yeah, it was a little bit bigger than a Game Gear, but it would actually play full version Sega Genesis games. And I ended up getting one. It was a monster on batteries, but it was the coolest little thing because I love some of my old Genesis games so much that I got to relive them because my Genesis broke years before then. Alright, so we'll give that one to Game Boy again. As you all know, Game Boy has stood the test of time. They still are in existence. They've come out with newer models so many times. Most recently, the 3DS and the 2DS are the re-out versions. The 2DS that doesn't fold in half, which looks like one of those game boards you would play at a restaurant. Cracks me up. But hey, big hits. People love them. I don't even think Sony's had a chance to really compete adequately in the handheld market as much as Nintendo has. All right, so now my personal favorite argument. This was where I truly cut my teeth from a casual gamer to a mainstream gamer, in my opinion, was at the birthing of Nintendo 64 versus the PlayStation 1. And I'm going to take this one to Rick. Who wins this round?
Are we talking about which system was better or which one was the best in my opinion? Or my favorite?
In your opinion, I mean, which was your favorite? I mean, I think we've all played both of them enough that we can say this one's better than that one.
I had it in 64 way longer. I had way more games for it. I think growing up, my family was prejudiced to anything that wasn't Nintendo because this is what I got. I only got Nintendo. I was lucky to get any other systems. So Oh, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I had that system, and I fell in love with that system. Like that was the moment, like you just said, that was the moment for me. That was the moment, like, that I knew I was gonna be playing games for a very long time. Like I was hooked. Like I knew it. This was it. Super Mario 64. I'm still scared of any water level because of that game. I mean,
All right,
so
so Super Mario 64 will be your tack in the doormat. Corey, I'm assuming you're going to go Nintendo here, but it's safe to ask, PlayStation 1 or Nintendo?
Well, when I was growing up, it was mostly Nintendo for me, Nintendo 64. And I'm going to still say right now that it's going to be throughout playing through like my teenage years, going back and playing PlayStation and, you know, growing up with that. I'm going to still go with the Nintendo 64, and there's a few reasons why I think the Nintendo 64 is better. I mean, it had better characters. You had better lovable characters that you grew up with going on to a 3D world. You had the Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, which Majora's Mask is one of my favorite games I've ever played. You had Star Fox, which included a free Rumble Pack. Most of the games didn't need memory cards. Some of them did, but I mean, it supplied you with whatever you needed. You know, the memory cards weren't required for every single game that you played. I mean, it had GoldenEye. I mean, what else can you say? But I'm gonna go ahead and argue with the PlayStation and say PlayStation did have better graphics. They ran on a CD, so I mean, they were gonna have video graphics too. I mean, I'm sure one of you have ever played a wrestling video game, probably on the PlayStation, and it actually shows the video on the Titantron. The Nintendo 64 didn't have that. And I'm gonna also say that the PlayStation had a better controller that fitted in your hand. But
yeah, I know that was a huge fallacy in the Nintendo 64 was that weird and awkward controller.
Yeah, but if you think about it, in a sense, it matters your personal preference. The PlayStation had a better D-pad when the N64 had the D-pad, plus it had a joystick. And PlayStation didn't get released with joysticks until, you know, years later. So, I mean, for my personal preference and from the facts that I've stated, I'm still going to go with Nintendo 64. It's not as hassleable because of the better memory. You know, you better lovable characters. You know, free accessories with games like the Rumble Pack with Star Fox. I mean, who doesn't like? I want to find somebody that doesn't like Star Fox. I mean, come at me. I want to know that.
Plus, it's in my opinion, compared to the PlayStation, it's aged way better. Like I can still plug in my N64 and play it, and it's fine. But it's like in trying to do that with my PlayStation, I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
Well, I'm going to argue on the side of the PlayStation 1, being that, you know, I had friends with a Nintendo 64, but I had to choose, and I chose PlayStation because I felt like the disc games were going to be the edge of the future for gaming, and it ended up being true. I mean, PlayStation kind of curbed the market in the beginning of what, in my opinion, of what was the standard bearer in future gaming systems, because by the time the PlayStation 1s and the N64s were retiring and their predecessors were coming out, you know, the bar had been raised, and the bar had been raised high. And, you know, I hate that the Dreamcast came out as early as it did because I really think that it was a trendsetter all its own. It just came out too soon. So by the time the GameCube, the PS2, the Xbox original released, the Dreamcast was considered negligent at that point, and it couldn't keep up with where they were at, or it was considered a lesser system. I mean, crap, you could when the PlayStation 2s dropped, I was in the Army, and I remember trading in a Dreamcast for $50 to go toward a PlayStation 2 because I wanted one so bad. And I just remember thinking, geez, I'd already paid, you know, $300 for this thing in games, and, you know, and here I am only going to get $50 back. Also, the birth of the game trading places as I found them for the first time ever in Washington State. But I'm going to argue PS1 simply because it was the first system that I was ever introduced to Resident Evil on. And I got the director's cut, and bam, my mind was blown. Most awesome game I've ever played. Hard as crap, scary as hell. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. But so far, it looks like Nintendo's holding a commanding lead over our system versus system. So now I'm going to take it up another notch. So when the PlayStation 1 and the N64 hit their, in my opinion, their peak, And then they moved to the next-gen consoles. They brought out the GameCube, PS2, and the original Xbox all at the same time. Who wins that round? Let's start with Corey.
For me, this one is completely like I'm gonna be everywhere, I guess. So because I love video games, I'm not really. If I had to pick one to be a fan of, it's Nintendo because of their history. But in these genres, it's a hit or miss with each system. Each system had its miss, and each system had its hit. So it's like you had to. It mattered what you liked and what your preference was of what system, what games. So for me, I'm gonna say the GameCube because it was the little kid out of them. So I mean, it's like the smallest. I mean, it looks like a lunchbox. What are you gonna argue with that? I'm gonna say the GameCube had the best controller out of all of them. The Xbox didn't get it right the first time. It had this big briefcase, and PlayStation looks like it carried over its PlayStation 1 controller. It's just black, and GameCube came out with this amazing controller that still plays on systems today. I mean, they just released Smash Bros. Wii U with the controller, so that's one of the reasons. The lovable characters again, which Xbox was this hit or miss, and it was failing until Halo came out, and PlayStation had its few hits on RPGs and fighters. So I think that's why the PlayStation hung around. But PlayStation sold the most until PlayStation sold all of them, I think, to be specific. So I mean, it had its Grand Theft Autos, and then it carried over to Xbox, and then they kind of just intertwined. They were basically releasing the same things, and GameCube was kind of shy of their third parties except for a few. But I'm gonna say, GameCube. I mean, it's had Super Mario Galaxy. It had Zelda. I mean, those. What more do you want?
Yeah. All right, Rick. Same argument.
Wow. Okay. As much as I had wanted an Xbox growing up, that was honestly the last of those three that I got because I did have all three of them. You have to keep in mind, for me, this is going to be a split answer, actually. I had the GameCube much earlier than I had a PlayStation 2. The GameCube was when it launched. PlayStation 2 was years later. So I got that. The GameCube was the latest, greatest. At that time, I was still pretty much a kid. I loved everything on the system. And just like you, the GameCube was the place I first played Resident Evil. So, yeah, I had Resident Evil 0, I think it was, on that one. And it holds one of my favorite horror games ever, Eternal Darkness. That game is insane. I loved it. I wish that company could make a second one. I loved that game. But then I got a PlayStation 2, and then I got anticipated into playing GTA 3, and then I sort of went into the more mature gaming because that is the biggest difference between those. The PlayStation 2 had a much more mature library than what the GameCube did. And like to this day, I would probably say the PlayStation 2. I'm going Sony on that one. I love my GameCube, don't get me wrong. Then they didn't change the controller, true, but they really didn't need to because they still haven't they just made improvements. So yeah, they got something good going for them, and I go with PlayStation 2.
Okay. At this point, I would say, to me, the winner in this, and this is my personal winner, this isn't what I'm saying about you guys. We have a three-way draw on this, because I'm going to go Xbox Original all day on this. And the reason for that is, not long after I got an Xbox Original, I had some friends that were crafty and could teach me how to do some things, and we popped a hard drive in there, and we modded some stuff, and I found out that I could keep games on the hard drive, and it just made everything really, really simple, and it already had the internet. Where PS2, you had to get some kind of an adapter, and you had to get some kind of an adapter for the GameCube. But the GameCube did have one cool feature that I thought was awesome, and it was the little Game Boy SP like thing you could put it on top of, and then you could play your Game Boy games on the TV. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, that was a pretty cool little add-on. But, the first one, in my opinion, to go successful online plus successful wireless controllers without having all the weird glitchy stuff was the original Xbox. That's my opinion. and it really started my fandom into the Microsoft line of gaming. Call me a fanboy if you want to. I've broken in all the systems. I think I can say I've got my own right to my own opinion, and I'd have no problems with yours. But at the same time, it's where my adulthood gaming turned the corner, and that was Halo played a small part of that in the beginning. I am not a big Halo fan at this point. Mainly because the multiplayer killed it for me. That's my opinion. But the very first Halo was the first Xbox game. I was in the Army. A buddy of mine and me, we sat down in the day room for 2 days and beat that game. And it was awesome. I had a blast doing it. Now, at this point, this is where the gaming systems stop being offline only. And it pushes us into the 360 versus PS3, and if you can even include it, the Wii. But I honestly, and this is my opinion again, the Wii to me is a standalone unit away from the PS3 and the 360, and this is why. I felt like the Wii was designed and built for younger kids and the family. It was built to be an interactive thing, completely separate from the way that PS3 and Xbox 360 were now being more advertised as computer-based gaming systems and less about gaming as much. Because, now all of a sudden you've got the PlayStation with all this music and movies, and the Xbox 360 is the same way. You've got Netflix and Pandora, and you've got games, and you've got hanging out with your friends on chatting and whatnot. So I'm not putting the Wii in this particular argument simply because I felt the Wii has a standalone of its own genre that doesn't necessarily fit in this conversation. So nothing against Nintendo, but I'm not including the Wii in this particular part of it. So PlayStation 3 versus Xbox 360. Who wins this round, Rick?
Xbox 360. Yeah, that was. I have both of them. I have gotten to try out just about everything you can do, from everything to the online aspects, the store, everything. The XMB on PlayStation, the dashboard for Xbox. Xbox is just. I'm not gonna say it's easy. It's just simpler. You can just flow with it. The way they have everything, and I know it was not like that when it first launched. I had it when they first launched. They did do a lot of updates to it too. While PlayStation's XMB and stuff is some of the cleanest, it's just laid out, so it looks good. It's not the easiest to navigate through if you're wanting to do something. And if I'm playing a game and want to add somebody into a party chat, you have to go through so much to do that. And I just like the flow of the Xbox better. The game lineup on both, though, I'm gonna have to say PlayStation. PlayStation has, in my opinion, the best first-party titles, hands down, or the newer ones. If you're not counting Nintendo's lineup, because those will always hold a place in my heart, but just between Microsoft and Sony, Sony has the best first-party lineup, hands down. The games that are still PlayStation only or Sony only are just fantastic. I'm not that big of a Halo fan, though, so I'm there with you.
All right, but you got to pick a system. So based on system only, for playability, easeability, or whatever other argument that you want to give, are we going PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox, yeah, Xbox.
All right, and Corey.
It's really tough for me because the two systems are identical with their games and whatever they put out. It's just it might be just a hair different on the systems if you play the same games. Now it matters how you take what you like. Whatever you think, how a controller feels in your hand, how the rumble feels, if you like your joysticks to be next to each other or, counter crooked, but I'm going to just go with the facts here. I'm going to say PS3 has, console-wise, it ran Blu-ray at the beginning, it ran HDMI at the beginning, it had a internal hard drive at the beginning. It didn't use batteries and controllers. It was rechargeables. Like I was saying about the Blu-rays, the games did not even scratch up. They held more data. So some of the Xbox 360 games that you would get would have 2 discs. When the same game was released on PS3, you'd only have 1. Now, in my personal opinion, I'm going to go with Xbox. It had a better interface, had a better online you would have to. I mean, I know that gold requires you to pay, but it's been doing that since original Xbox. And then when PlayStation jumped on, they were trying to give a free internet out. I mean, but it wasn't the same internet experience. You were basically paying for a better internet experience. I mean, you can have parties, you can private party with your friends and go in a game. You wouldn't have to sit there and listen to people in the lobby like you had to do in PlayStation. You couldn't separate yourself from the group. When Xbox's new interface came out, it was way better. They release weekly deals on their online interface as well. So plug and play was a lot easier with like your headsets and stuff like that. You wouldn't have to plug your headset straight into the console. You just had to plug it straight into your controller. Now, like I said, controller-wise, PlayStation wins because of the recharge. When Xbox didn't have that, you would have to buy something completely separate. So, besides the controller, I'm going to, like I said, go with the Xbox because the experience is a whole lot better.
So you're saying Xbox?
Yeah, Xbox's experience is a whole lot better with your interface, interacting with Microsoft, basically, with the console. Okay. I would say it's way better.
I will give you that. Okay, and so we're all agreeing on Xbox at this point being the better product from the 360 to PS3 out. My personal reasons behind this came as an accident, actually. I had an external hard drive that I had some movies on, and I just, on a whim, plugged it into the back of my Xbox 360, and it pulled the movies up, and we could watch them with the controller without having to worry about downloading or swapping over or burning to a disk, and that made my life considerably easier. Not a gaming aspect, of course, but that was my real tipper at that point. I haven't always been a big fan of the chatting. That's just recently been a thing with me, and actually getting into party chats and enjoying the level of connection that you get from an online community. I've recently joined a couple of groups and play games with these guys, and it adds an aspect to gaming that I think needed to happen, and it's a communication connection for people if they want it. Granted, you have to sift through a lot of garbage to get to some good stuff, because there's always some crap talker in the middle of a Call of Duty map that just wants to F everybody. And it's aggravating, but if you can find some good guys to play with, like the guys over at GeeksGamers.com and the Geeks Gamers group on Facebook, you can find some cool guys to game with, which will really increase your experience, and it'll add a lovely addition, in my opinion, to any game, is having a great conversation along with it, or just having good people that know where to call stuff out so you aren't standing in the middle of a map getting shot at by everybody. But yeah, 360, in my opinion, to me, and this is a personal thing, yeah, PlayStation gave you a rechargeable controller, and yeah, they started out with Blu-ray, but being that I've worked around GameStop and I've been in GameStop for so long, I've also seen a lot of PS3s come back with disk drive issues, which I think is why they finally went to the top mount PlayStation 3s for that to save their disk drives a little bit. But there's been a fair share of problems with the 360s too. The Red Ring of Death, everybody knows about that, and it was a huge problem in the first generation of consoles. I do currently own a black slim 250 gig 360, which has been an excellent system. And I also own the slim PS3, which has also been an excellent system. But online-wise, I say, with the exception of the seemingly better gaming selection for PlayStation Plus members, I say 360 wins this one pretty well. All right, I'm not going to get into current-gen consoles because I don't think we're ready for that conversation yet. I think there's a lot that still needs to happen that has not necessarily happened yet. And I think both sides are lacking from just an enormous game lineup that hasn't come out yet. Unfortunately, that's a waiting game for all of us. So with Microsoft still holding on to 360 titles for another 2 years, and I think the PS3 is going to be manufacturing for the next 4 years, maybe? Does that sound right to either one of you guys, or is it 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Sounds about right.
We'll do some research on that part. But anyway, that is a small segment, or maybe not so small by the time this thing airs. But that was a small segment of the kind of conversations that we want to bring to you guys. It may be a top 5 list, top 10 list, best and worst movie lines. Who knows? I mean, we'll take the conversations anywhere you guys want us to. If we don't know the information, we'll either invite a guest on that does, or I will personally do the research to have an arguable side to either or, however you guys want it to happen. Please feel free to comment down in the links below. You guys want to give any goodbyes? Rick first.
Just stay classy, San Diego.
Corey, you got anything?
Shout out to Geeks and Gamers.
Oh yeah.
Right on. Shout out to all of Geeks and Gamers. GeeksGamers.com and the Geeks Gamers group on Facebook. And also a quick hat tip. Jeremy Griggs, thank you very much for the group that you provided for us, man. I've watched this guy come from putting together these little tiny tournaments into what this thing is now in just a few short months. A goal I think they had for the end of the year was 500 members, and we're over 1,300. So fantastic job on the group, guys. All the admins out there that do your best, thank you so much for all that you do, Rick included. And Corey, you're an admin too, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, so both of you guys. I am not an admin, which I hope to stay that way. But you guys do a great job on the site. I see the Banhammer coming out, you know. And for you guys that are listening to this and haven't commented a lot yet or haven't commented on much, you know, don't let somebody else's negative comments affect your positive ones. There is a small rule list at the beginning of the site. If you go to files and look at it, read it, get to know them. There are not a lot of rules. It's just mainly being respectful for everybody. If you come on our show, if you're ever invited as a guest, please keep obscenities to a minimum. We don't need any F-bombs or GD bombs or any of that mess. We're not that kind of group. We are an adult group with kid-friendly materials. So please understand that if your child wants to be a member of this someday, we have to keep the content clean so that they can be. This is for all geeks and gamers, not just us 30-somethings or 20-somethings that want to have a cool place to talk about all the cool collectibles that we have. One of my personal favorite, Mr. Handy Hulk here. So just so you guys know, and by the stuff behind me, I am also one of you. So please don't think there's going to be any judgment passed by me or any of these guys. We love everything that's involved in this group, and I'm glad that we have so many people to shout out to and listen from and then also interact with. So I'm very excited to see where this thing goes. We'll see you guys first of the year. Probably going to be on a Wednesday. Other than that, man, you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will see you guys in 2015.